welcome to this week's All About Cars, where we will be taking all your questions and answering them. Let's get started and let's start with our Facebook questions first. Ashish on Facebook asks us, I'm 5 feet 8 inches tall. I'm looking for a automatic sub 4 meter SUV, and I need to know which SUV allows me to see the end of the bonnet when sitting in the driver's seat, as he feels more comfortable when I'm able to see the end of the bonnet while driving. So Ashish, answering your question, all modern designs when it comes to SUVs or cars have a very sleek design as of today. So it's very difficult to see the end of the bonnet. However, a sub 4 meter SUV that comes closest to what you're looking for is the Kia Sonet, because with the seat height fully raised, the way the Kia Sonet has been designed with the bonnet bulge, I think that's the only SUV where with the seat height fully raised again, you can see the end of the bonnet, and maybe that will help you with better judgment. But as far as the judgment is concerned, I think it's just in your mind, and once you drive the car daily, you just get used to it. But answering your question again, I think the Kia Sonet should suit your recommendation, your needs fine. Our second question comes from Ajay, and he lives in Gurgaon. And his average daily pattern is about 30 to 35 kilometers, of which 75% of use is in the city and about 25% on the highways. His on-road budget is about 10 to 11 lakhs, and his primary need is an automatic transmission, and he says he's previously driven the Honda Jazz CVT. His options include the Magnite, the Jazz, the Nexon, the Sonet, and his priorities for his car include features, good fit and finish, and safety. So Ajay, I think from the given recommendations, we would recommend the Kia Sonet, because it comes across as a very feature-laden car. It's good on safety, it's got good performance, and you've got a bunch of automatic options to choose from with the Sonet. You have the IMT, you have the CVT. Between both of those, you can drive them and see which one suits your need better, and go for whichever you prefer. I think the Kia Sonet should definitely suit your needs. Our third question comes from Shrikant, and he says that he goes on long distance highways once every month, and when he goes, it will be with 4 adults. He was very impressed by the Magnite's design, the rear seat and comfort, but he's a bit confused on which variant of the Magnite to buy, and he asked whether if the 1 liter non-turbo is good enough, and if he chooses the turbo, how is the reliability and maintenance. And he also says that he has checked a few reviews where he found the Magnite engine and gearbox may not be as smooth and reliable as some of the competition. Shrikant, to answer your question, we've driven the Magnite extensively. We haven't driven the naturally aspirated variant, but we were thoroughly impressed with the turbo variant. You can check our review and check in all the details about the car. But as far as the maintenance and reliability is concerned, we don't think there will be an issue with the Magnite, because as you see, most of the cars in that segment or even in the higher segment come with turbos, and turbos aren't really heavy on the pocket. Instead, they offer better fuel efficiency, they offer better performance. So all in all, it's a good thing when the car has a turbo. The variant, I think you can go in for the top end CVT gearbox version. I think it has all the features that you need, and it's got enough performance, it's fuel efficient too. And I think you mentioned that your wife has booked the Magnite. I think it's a very good decision. All right, our next question comes from Sai, and he is asking us whether we suggest the Skoda Rapid Rider or the Nexon XM. His usage is 70% in the city in Hyderabad, not frequently used, and his priority is easy driving, handling, comfort, safety, performance for long-term use, and this will be his first car. So Sai, considering your priorities, I think the Skoda Rapid makes more sense, just because most of the cars are relatively easier to drive compared to the SUVs. The Nexon, it's not heavy or it doesn't require much effort, but Compared to a sedan and an SUV, a sedan is always a little more easier to drive, and considering your usage is less, we think the Rapid will suit your needs better. It's easier to drive in the city, it's more maneuverable, it also has very good performance. So if you're looking at mostly city usage, we think the Rapid suits your needs better. Our next question comes from Shivam, and he is confused about the 40 lakh segment. Shivam is confused between the Skoda Superb or the Fortuner or the Ford Endeavour, and he says that he knows that these are completely different segment of cars, but if he's decided to spend 40 lakh rupees, he doesn't want to regret his decision. So Shivam, to answer your question, if you're looking at rear leg room, if your car is mostly going to be driven, chauffeur driven, we would suggest the Superb because it's got acres of legroom, it's very comfortable at the back, it's got all the features you need, and should you decide to drive, it makes for a very engaging driving experience too. But on the other hand, if you plan to travel long distances and you plan to do a little bit of off-roading, or you plan to really go into places where the roads aren't in the best of shape, the Ford Endeavour or the Toyota Fortuner should be a better choice because they are more rugged vehicles and they can handle any kind of terrain better than the Skoda Superb. So again, if you're looking at a chauffeur driven experience or mostly city usage, the Skoda Superb makes more sense. But if you're planning to drive outside of town and over bad surfaces more often, where you don't want to slow down or where you don't want it to affect the car too much, either of the SUVs make for a better choice then. Our next question comes from Ankit, and he says that he's a huge fan of the Baleno, but he's worried about its safety and build quality, and he wants to know more about the build quality and the safety, and which is a better buy. Is it the Baleno Zeta or the Toyota Glanza G Hybrid? So Ankit, going by sales numbers, the Baleno has been a huge hit, and we've driven it extensively and we see no problems when it comes to safety. It has all the safety features that you need, be it ABS, EBD, airbags. So no matter what you read about it on social media, the Baleno is a safe car, and if driven properly, if driven safely, there is no issue with the Baleno as far as the safety is concerned. Now coming to whether you want to buy the Toyota Glanza or the Maruti Suzuki Baleno, both are essentially the same cars with exactly the same engine and features, but where it differs is basically the warranty. Toyota offers a slightly better warranty on the Glanza, whereas Maruti Suzuki offer your standard warranties, but both cars are just as reliable, so it comes down to the badging. So if you need a Toyota, you can buy the Glanza, or if you want a Maruti in your garage, the Baleno should do just fine. Our next question comes from Sandesh, and his query is if we can suggest the best SUV to buy in the 10 to 12 lakh range on road and having an automatic transmission and the best features. So Sandesh, coming to your query, you have a wide range of options in the compact SUV segment, and going by your priorities, we think two SUVs suit your need better. You can either choose between the Hyundai Venue or the Kia Sonet. The Hyundai Venue also has a range of automatic options. It's got a good choice of engines to choose from. The Sonet has a few more features compared to the Venue, but then it comes down to which you like better. Both are very good options to choose from. The Sonet has a few more features. The Venue, of course, has been around for long and is a trusted product. Not that the Sonet is anything bad, but it's just that the Venue has been around longer. So between both those vehicles, you can choose whichever you like, and both make for very good options. We now move on to our Twitter questions. Tejdeep Verma asks us, which would we suggest between the Hyundai Creta S or the Kia Seltos HTK Plus in petrol variants, and which is the better value for money variant? So Tejdeep, to answer your question, both cars are pretty similar on the powertrain front, but offer different things when it comes to the end user. The Creta is the more comfortable car. The Seltos, on the other hand, is a more driver's car. So if you want something that's more comfortable, more for the family, we suggest the Hyundai Creta is a good choice. But if you want something that's a little more engaging and if you like to drive, we would suggest you go for the Kia Seltos. Our next question comes from Sharad Verma, and he needs a suggestion between the MG Hector Petrol or the Tata Harrier or the Mahindra XUV500. Now, Sharad, all these three cars are very different from each other. The MG Hector is available in a 6-seater variant. The Tata Harrier is a 5-seater only, whereas the XUV500 is a 7-seater car. Also, the MG Hector in petrol variant, we think it suffers a little bit on the performance front. It just doesn't have the grunt that you need from such a large SUV, but no such problems with the Tata Harrier or the XUV500. Now, between both those cars, if you want a 7-seater, we suggest you look at the XUV500. No problems on the performance front. It's been there long enough. So if you need more space, for more passengers, the XUV500 makes more sense. But if you need a 5-seater with enough performance on tap and decent number of features, we suggest you take a look at the Tata Harrier. We now move on to our YouTube questions, and thank you so much for leaving questions on our previous video. Now moving to our first question by Viswanath Kamisetti. He wants to buy the best fun to drive and safe compact sedan. Now Viswanath, to answer your query, in the compact sedan you have two choices when it comes to fun to drive. You can either choose between the Ford Aspire Diesel sedan, which is a very good handling car and it's got enough performance as well, and it makes for a very good package, or you can buy the recently launched Hyundai Aura Turbo. The 3-cylinder turbo is very potent, it's very peppy, and should you give it the beans, it's a very fun to drive car as well. So between these two, you cannot go wrong. So you can just take a test drive of both the cars and see what suits you better. Our next question comes from Srinath C, and he needs a car for his dad. He's looking for an automatic transmission. His driving involves mostly in city conditions. Monthly usage is about 800 kilometers. And he's planning to sell his Quid automatic. Car should be easy to drive and handle. Steering should be light and easy. His dad is 68 years old. He needs good visibility, good Ingress and Egress, and driving will be mostly on muddy roads, so ride quality is very important for him. So answering your question, Srinath, we have two choices for you. If you want to stick to a budget of 7 lakhs on road, the Maruti Suzuki WagonR with the 1.2 liter engine and the AMT transmission makes for a very good choice. It's very easy to get in and out of thanks to that tall boy design. It's got very good ride quality and we can vouch for that, and that 1.2 liter engine has enough of performance for any conditions. So the WagonR at 7 lakhs makes for a very good choice. But if you can stretch your budget to a lakh more, 8 lakhs on road will also fetch you the Maruti Suzuki Ignis, and that again is also a very good car. You get more features, it's slightly more premium thanks to the Nexa badging. It's also got decent performance on tap, the same engine, it's got funkier interiors. So if you can stretch your budget by a lakh, the Ignis is a good choice, but at 7 lakhs on road, the Maruti Suzuki WagonR is also a very good choice. Our next question comes from Guru Prasanna, and he would like us to recommend between the i20 DCT Asta or the Sonet GTX IMT. He asks us how would we compare the suspension setup of both cars and the overall seating comfort for city drives. Now answering your question, Guru, between both the cars, the Sonet is of course a compact SUV and the i20 is a hatchback. So driving in the city is a little easier with the i20 because of its compact dimensions, very light controls, and that DCT gearbox with the 1 liter turbo engine is fantastic. It just drives very well. The Sonet on the other hand, with the IMT transmission, also works very well, but considering your priorities of city driving, we suggest the i20 makes more sense. But if you involve more of highways, then the Sonet would have made a better choice. But for the city usage, we think the i20 turbo with the DCT gearbox is a very good choice. Our next question comes from Kedar Pradhan, and he says that he's booked a Kia Sonet back in November. The current estimated delivery period for his car is January 2021, and he says that he's heard about a substantial price hike at the end of the year. His question is, are existing customers charged with the revised amount, and if so, is this a standard or acceptable practice? So Kedar, to answer your question, if the car you've booked is available in the dealer's stockyard, you won't be charged with the price hike. But if your car isn't in stock and will be coming from the factory, the price hike will be applicable to your vehicle. So if you've booked the car in November and if your dealer says he has the car in his stockyard, I don't think the price hike will be applicable to you. But if he doesn't have the car in stock, there is no other way but to pay the extra price. Our next question comes from Akshit M, and he's decided to buy the Skoda Superb, and he wants to know if there are any updates planned for the 2021 car, or should he go ahead and buy the 2020 car. To answer your question, Akshit, the Skoda Superb just recently received a midlife facelift, and they've heavily revised the car with features, and it's got revised looks as well, and you can check out the review on our YouTube channel. So we don't think there's going to be any revisions or new car coming out immediately. If anything, it should come out by late next year. So if you decide to buy the car now, we think you should go ahead with your purchase. Our next question comes from Sundar Bala, and he says that his daily driving is about 10 to 15 kilometers per day, and should he go for the Sonet HTX IMT Petrol, the HTX Diesel Manual, or the Magnite CVT? To answer your question, Sundar, between the three cars and going by the number of kilometers you commute, we think the Sonet IMT makes more sense. The diesel Sonet would have made more sense if you had a longer commute, but between 15 to 20 kilometers every day, we think the Sonet IMT makes more sense. Between the Nissan Magnite and the Kia Sonet, if your budget allows the Kia Sonet, we think it's a better choice. It's a car in a slightly higher segment, has more features, more performance. So if you can buy the Kia Sonet IMT, we think that's the better choice. Our next question comes from Pradeep Batra, और प्रदीप बत्रा जानना चाहते हैं कि Citroen C5 के रिगार्डिंग कुछ नया इन्फॉर्मेशन है या ये कब लॉन्च होने वाली है। तो प्रदीप, हम आपको बता दें कि Citroen C5 की लॉन्च डेट अप्रॉक्सीमेटली मार्च से अप्रैल के बीच 2021 में होनी चाहिए। दैट्स व्हाट वी एक्सपेक्ट। और इंजन और बाकी के इन्फॉर्मेशन आपको अगर चाहिए तो हमारे वेबसाइट पे ऑलरेडी मौजूद हैं। तो लॉन्च के लिए आई थिंक मार्च अप्रैल के बीच में Citroen C5 लॉन्च होनी चाहिए। बट हमारे वेबसाइट पर आते रहिए, आपको और इन्फॉर्मेशन उसके रिगार्डिंग मिलती रहेगी। Our next question comes from Mohammad Farooq Pirzadeh, and he says that one of his friends is planning to buy a car with a budget of 8 to 8.5 lakhs ex showroom, and his priorities are low maintenance cost, fuel efficiency, safety and handling. And he wants to choose between the i20 Magna Diesel, the S-Cross Sigma Petrol, the Volkswagen Polo 1 litre TSI, and the new Rapid 1 litre TSI Rider Plus. Now, to answer your question, if you're looking at fuel efficiency, diesel cars do offer better fuel efficiency as compared to their petrol peers. So if fuel efficiency is on your mind, we think the i20 Magna Diesel should be right at the top of your list. But if handling comes into the picture, then it's a close call between the Polo and the Skoda Rapid. So you can decide depending on your daily commute. If it's over 20 to 25 kilometers, you can go for the i20 diesel, or you can choose between the 1 litre TSI Polo or the Skoda Rapid 1 litre TSI. Our next question comes from Prithvi Shaw, and he says that he has a deal for a Maruti Suzuki Dzire ZXi variant, which has done 1.3 lakh kilometers. The asking price for which is between 3.5 to 4 lakhs, and he wants to know whether it's worth buying, how long can he use the car after that, and how long will the engine last. Well, to answer your question, Prithvi, 1.3 lakhs is a lot of kilometers on the odo, but as long as the car's been well looked after and it's been regularly serviced, we don't think there should be an issue. To answer your question about how long it will last, we suggest you take the car to the nearest Maruti Suzuki service center and have the car thoroughly checked, and once they give you an okay with it, we don't think there should be an issue with it. Our next question comes from Ashish Lavanya, and he's looking for a car for city driving with an automatic transmission. He will be doing a long drive every month, and his budget is under 25 lakhs. His preferences are safety, build quality and a good driving experience. He also wants to know what his options are. Should he consider SUV or sedans, and should he consider diesels or turbo petrols, and if turbo petrols have any issues with long trips with over 800 kilometers in a day. Now to answer your question, Ashish, let's look at the options. So when it comes to SUVs, you have the Hector Plus, the MG Hector Plus, you have the Jeep Compass, and you have the Volkswagen T-Roc. Now the Volkswagen T-Roc is currently out of stock, but irrespective, they will be getting it back. But these are your options when it comes to SUVs. So looking at these three vehicles, we think it's a good choice between the Jeep Compass or the Volkswagen T-Roc. Both these cars are very capable cars on the highways. They have very good ride quality, they have very good handling, and they're covered on the safety front as well. To answer your question about turbo petrols, there is absolutely no issue. They're just as reliable as any other engine, and you can do trips longer than 800 kilometers in a day with those engines. So there's no such issue with turbo petrols. Now talking about sedans, you've got two options. You can either choose between the Honda Civic 1.8 litre petrol with the CVT transmission, or the Hyundai Elantra with the 2 litre engine and the automatic gearbox. Now both these cars are very good to drive in city conditions. They're equally capable on the highways. But choosing between a sedan and an SUV, we think it's a very close call. Driving in the city, the sedans are slightly easier to drive, slightly easier to live with lighter controls, good performance on tap, a better fuel efficiency as well. But out on the highways, since you mentioned that you will be doing the occasional long distance trip, the SUVs have a slightly better hand, because they can take the bad roads easily, so you don't have to stop every time you encounter bad stretches of roads. So you can take a call depending on what is your priority. If it's city, mostly with the occasional long distance trips, the sedans make for an ideal choice. But if long distance trips is your priority and you want comfort and you don't want to be bothered by bad road conditions, you can stick to the SUVs. And that's a wrap on this week's All About Cars. Do make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update, and do keep sending in your questions so we can help you with all your car buying decisions.